You have seen those rooms, the ones in the magazines, in the beautiful hotel lobbies, in your friend's house who somehow always has it together. And then you look around your own living room and think, mine has all the same things, so why does hers look expensive and mine just looks fine? After years in interior design, I can tell you the answer, and it is going to surprise you. It is almost never the furniture. It is almost never the money. It is a formula, a specific, repeatable way of arranging the things you already own. And once you learn it, you will use it on every surface in your home for the rest of your life. Today, I am giving you that whole formula. But here is the honest part before we start. I have arranged things the wrong way for years. This is not about judgment, it is about noticing. Once you see the formula, you cannot unsee it. And stay with me to the very end, because the last thing I share is the one that turns a pretty arrangement into something that actually feels like you, and it costs nothing at all. Let us start with the foundation. The single easiest move in the whole formula is this. Before you place one object, put down a large tray. A tray draws an invisible frame around your things. It tells the eye everything inside here belongs together, on purpose. Without it, 3 objects on a table look like 3 things somebody forgot to put away. Inside a tray, those very same 3 objects suddenly look styled. It is a principle Emily Henderson, one of the most trusted voices in American styling, calls containment. When you give objects a boundary, you give them purpose. And interior editors at Architectural Digest have been photographing this exact move on coffee tables for decades because it works every single time. Now, I want to be practical with you because this is a coffee table, and a coffee table has a job. People need somewhere to set a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, so here's the rule I follow. Never let your arrangement swallow the whole surface. On a small table, keep the styling to one side, or use a tray you can slide over in a single second when company comes. On a larger table, gather your pieces onto the tray and leave the rest of the surface open and working. Beautiful and livable are not opposites. A room you cannot actually use is not a well-designed room, and if you are ever unsure about the tray itself, remember the size matters more than the material. A large plain tray will always beat a small fancy one. Now, the tray gives you the frame. The next move decides what goes inside it and in what order. Here is what separates a designed surface from a cluttered one: order. You do not just set things down, you build in a sequence from the bottom up. Your eye reads a well-styled arrangement like a small staircase, something flat and wide on the bottom, something with height in the middle, something small and special on top. When the layers climb, it feels intentional. When everything sits at the same level, it feels like a display shelf at a store. So the order is simple: flat things first, like a stack of books. Then your tall pieces, a vase or a candlestick. Then last of all, one small object placed on top. Bottom, middle, top. Every single time. This is a method Shay McGee of Studio McGee teaches in her own styling breakdowns. And if you have ever looked at one of her rooms and thought, that looks effortless, this staircase principle is a big part of why. The team at House Beautiful calls it the rule of 3 heights. And once you train your eye on it, you will spot it in every editorial spread you open. And those books on the bottom do far more work than anyone gives them credit for. A stack of books gives you 3 gifts at once. Height, to lift a small object so it is not lost. A flat little pedestal to set that object on. And personality through the color of the spines. Now, I know the trend of turning books backward or wrapping them in plain paper has gone around, and I will be honest, I am not a fan. Books are meant to be seen and enjoyed, not hidden. Simply choose stacks whose spines already suit your room, or slip in one of those handsome box books that open up and tuck your remote controls inside. Beautiful on the outside, useful on the inside. That is the kind of quiet cleverness a designer lives by. Now that the layers are built, let us make the whole thing feel alive. Every expensive-looking arrangement has one thing in common. Something from nature. A living plant, a stem of greenery, a piece of coral, a simple bowl of fruit. Something that softens all the hard man-made edges around it. Our eyes are drawn to natural things by instinct, and the moment you add one living element, the whole arrangement warms up and breathes. Nate Berkus puts it perfectly. Your home should tell the story of who you are, and nature is part of that story. Joanna Gaines built an entire design philosophy around this idea at Magnolia, and the reason her rooms feel warm even in a photograph is almost always that living element grounding the space. But here's the practical truth: most decorating videos skip. A coffee table rarely gets much natural light, and low light is what quietly kills most tabletop plants. So choose a genuine low light plant, a pothos, a snake plant, a little ZZ plant, and rotate it toward a window every week or so. Let the soil dry between drinks, light and restraint, and your plant will actually last. Now, I have always leaned toward real over faux, but I have learned that the secret to a convincing faux arrangement is to tuck a few real stems in among the artificial ones. This is a technique from the floral team at Veranda magazine. The real stems catch the light differently, and that tiny difference fools even a trained eye. So do not feel guilty reaching for a high-quality faux. Just choose the matte, natural-looking kind and slip something real in beside it. Here is a designer secret that sounds almost too simple to matter, and yet it changes everything. Group your objects in ODD numbers: 1s, 3s, 5s, and 7s. Why would that possibly work? Because even numbers feel matched, closed, and static. The eye pairs them up and stops. Odd numbers feel open and a little alive. The eye keeps traveling between them, and that gentle movement is exactly what reads as effortless and expensive. This is not just a decorator's hunch. It is a principle rooted in how our brains process visual information, and it has been studied in everything from fine art composition to retail display design. Traditional Home magazine has called the rule of odds one of the 10 most important principles in residential styling, and Bobby Burke, from the original Queer Eye design team, demonstrates it in virtually every room he touches. So as you build, count. 3 objects. 5. 7. Not 4, not 6. It is a rule, and like every good rule in design, you may break it once you understand it. But when in doubt, go ODD. And this is the heart of what I keep telling you. Expensive is not what you spend. It is how you arrange what you already have. That stack of books and that little grouping of 3 cost almost nothing. The arrangement is doing all the work. Odd numbers tell you how many. The next move tells you how tall. This is the step most people miss. Never line your objects up at the same height. Stagger them. Tall, then medium, then short. When everything is the same height, your eye hits a flat wall and gives up. When the heights step up and down, your eye travels across the arrangement like a little landscape, and that journey is what makes a surface feel rich. Sarah Richardson, the Canadian designer whose work has been featured in Decor and dozens of shelter magazines, calls this creating a skyline on your surface. A city skyline is beautiful precisely because nothing is the same height. And a question I get all the time: if you put a tall candle in a tall candlestick, doesn't it throw the whole thing off balance? It absolutely can, which is exactly why I often leave my candlesticks empty and use them purely as sculptural shapes. It reads clean, it keeps your heights under control, and you never think about dripping wax. If you do want the glow, reach for the battery candles with a built-in timer. Cozy flicker without the mess. Heights give your arrangement its shape. Texture gives it soul. Designers call this texture play. Never let everything be smooth. Mix it up. Think of a walk in the woods. Rough bark, smooth stones, soft moss. That mixture is what makes nature feel rich, and your eye craves the same thing indoors. So in any arrangement, aim for a mix. Something woven, like a rattan tray. Something smooth and matte, like books. Something with a soft shine, like a brushed brass candlestick. Something organic, like coral or a plant. Rough against smooth, matte against shine. The design team at Restoration Hardware built their entire brand identity around this, layering raw linen against brushed oak against hammered metal. Martha Stewart's editorial team used to call it the touch test. Close your eyes and run your hand across a styled surface. You should feel at least 3 different textures. If everything feels the same, the arrangement is not finished. We are almost there. This next move is what makes your entire room feel like it belongs together. Designers call it flow. Nothing in a beautiful room stands completely alone. Every element quietly echoes something else. When a color or a finish shows up in 2 or 3 places, your eye connects the dots, and the whole room feels calm and intentional. When nothing repeats, even lovely pieces feel scattered. Mark D. Sykes, whose blue and white rooms have graced the pages of Architectural Digest, is a master at this. He takes one shade of blue and threads it through a pillow, a vase, a binding on a book, and a frame across the room, and the whole space hums. The editors at Domino magazine consider this the single fastest way to make a room feel pulled together without spending a dime. So look at your arrangement, then at the rest of the room. Take the brass in your candlestick and make sure brass appears somewhere else. A lamp, a picture frame, a drawer pull. You are stitching the whole space together with tiny repeated threads. Everything so far has been about beauty. This next one is about scale. Your objects have to match the size of the surface around them. Little things on a big table look lost. Big things on a little table look crowded. Bunny Williams, one of the grand dames of American interior design and a former protege of the legendary Sister Parrish, has a wonderful rule. If you squint at a room and something jumps out as too big or disappears entirely, the scale is wrong. It is a beautifully simple test. A large surface wants a few pieces with real substance, and when a single piece has enough presence, it can anchor an arrangement all on its own, no tray required. One honest word about the giant candle in a tall glass vessel. Do not try to lower a big candle down into a deep vase from the top. That is how vases get broken. Pour your sand into the vessel first, right up to the height you want. Then set the candle down onto the sand and nestle it in. If the vessel is very narrow, lay it on its side, glide the candle in, and stand it back up. Sand first, candle second. Tuck in a few shells, a little greenery, and you have a resort-worthy centerpiece for a fraction of the price. And if you cannot find the perfect shade of sand, plain Epsom salt from the drugstore makes a beautiful, bright, snowy white base. And that brings us to the last move, the one that matters more than all the others combined. Here's the secret that no amount of money can buy, and the reason two rooms with the exact same objects can feel completely different. The most expensive-looking arrangements are filled with things that mean something. You can follow every other step in this formula perfectly and still end up with a room that looks like a showroom. Beautiful, but empty. What turns it into a home is a single object with a story. An heirloom pocket watch passed down through your family. A little dish from a trip you still think about. A shell from a beach you loved. A photograph that makes you smile every time you pass it. Nate Berkus has built his entire career on this idea, and he says it better than anyone I know. Your home should be a collection of what is important to you in your life. Not a showroom, not a trend report, a story. And I think that is exactly right. This is the one thing you can never order online, and it is the one thing that matters most. Because a curated, expensive-looking room is not really about looking expensive at all. And this is the part I most want you to hear. It was never about collecting more beautiful objects or staring at a perfect coffee table instead of living your life. It is the opposite. It is about surrounding yourself in the room where you actually live, with the things that carry your memories, so that your home quietly tells your story back to you. When every piece means something, the arrangement stops being decoration and starts being your life, laid out beautifully in front of you. So whatever you place, ask one simple question. Does this mean something to me? The pieces that pass that test are the ones that will make your home feel priceless, no matter what they cost. So there is the whole formula. Anchor with the tray. Build in layers. Let books do the heavy lifting. Add something living. Group in odd numbers. Stagger your heights. Mix your textures. Repeat a color or a finish. Match your scale. And above all, make it personal. Do not feel you must do all of this at once. The most beautiful homes come together slowly, one thoughtful surface at a time. Pick one shelf this week. Just one. Apply even 3 of these ideas, and you will see the difference immediately. Because expensive was never what you spend. It is how you arrange what you already have. You did not need a bigger budget. You needed the formula. And now it is yours. I would love to know which idea surprised you the most. Tell me in the comments, and everything I used to create these looks, at prices that will not break the bank, is linked for you in the description box below. Go style one surface this week, and I will see you in the next one.